During this century, Aboriginal society was mistreated and forced into manual labor jobs. Towards the end of the century, Indigenous people were more accepted into white Australian society. While Indigenous people has lesser paying jobs, they couldn't afford adequate housing and sanitation facilities. Women were to stay at home to run the family unit and bring up the youngsters. Youngsters from wealthy classes went to private schools. Ladies who did work was to get additional pay to survive. Young ladies learned subjects such as writing, French, how to run a family unit and etc. The wealthy classes in the mid-1900s usually lived on the North Shore and the eastern suburbs. Their sewage and sanitation were moderate. The wealthy classes of Sydney in the mid-1900s normally lived in rural areas on the North Shore and the eastern suburbs. Not at all like the city patios of the average workers, the homes and the terraces of the centre and privileged societies had a tendency to be bigger. A few homes even had a space for their workers, a significant number of whom lived in. As the tenants of the homes were wealthier, legitimate sewerage and sanitation were likewise moderate. While infection was not limited to low-pay workers, better and more clean lodging conditions implied that the strength of the centre and high societies was a great deal less at hazard than that of the common labourers. The individuals who were well off could likewise manage the cost of medicinal treatment and a more nutritious eating routine which guaranteed a more prominent possibility of good well-being.
There was no thought for the mothers. The constant comments were, oh, they'll get over it. They do. It was almost treating Aboriginal mothers as subhumans without any thought. And yet, on the other hand, some of the police, the protectors of natives, in my file, particularly in one police officer in my file, wrote twice to say that my mother was looking after me and didn't think it was necessary to remove me, and then gets instructed to do it.
The Act was executed was through the police force. I've tried to imagine what it must have been like finding yourself on a police escort walking 150 miles where she was housed with people who were chained at the neck, with other children who'd been taken away from other stations.
And the mothers had no rights at all, no rights to protest or anything. All they could do is sit down and cry.
Until the mid-20th century. Also during that time, the Australian government supported forcibly taking Aboriginal children away from their parents. The reason for such policies varied, but many claimed it was for child protection and re-socialization. The children taken away from their homes were eventually known as the Stolen Generation.